Hey guys, welcome back to customcomputing.ca. So where we left off in part three, we just finished up the custom fitting of everything and the theory of the placement of all the parts and make sure that they're all going to fit properly. The second part, which is what we're doing here now, is we have to dismantle everything and we basically have to re-perfect all the customizations that we've made. So I've decided to switch from this flat matte black to a gloss black. So you can see here that the rad's been painted gloss black instead of the flat black, and I'm going to repaint the symbols gold. But I felt like the acrylic piece that we have the reservoir mounted to was too big of a contrast on the plating in the back if it was flat black. So if it's gloss, it kind of blends in a little bit. So we're going to be going gloss black with all components. Another reason why I wanted to go with the gloss black is because of the positioning of the lighting. It's going to be shining onto the background, so it's going to kind of create a shimmer behind the acrylic that we're going to have, as well as we're having acrylic on the base and the sides. So it's going to be shiny on the sides of the computer as well as the bottom for the flooring. So that'll go with the gloss of the back. So it'll be the same similar kind of shine. Now, one of the simpler of the mods was to get the front panel on with three fans. So here we can see temporarily mounted three fans just to see exactly what I'm going to have to cut off the front panel in order to get this flush without actually protruding the fan through the front. And there's only this one small centerpiece here that is hitting the fan. So we had to take that piece off, but then we also have to Dremel it down a little bit so that you can see here that the bottom fan fits nice and snug, but the top one is hitting that centerpiece. So we're going to have to go and just take off a little bit of that centerpiece in order to make it flush with the fan base and not actually cut out any of the other excess material. Now this is a pretty simple mod. You just have to continue the flow of the front panel to where it was from the bottom to the top so that nothing hits the fans. And I'm going to take this time to vent a little bit. So the Noise Blocker Pro that I bought, these fans, they have a matte black case and a gloss black blade. The blades are really shiny, and in fact they actually look like a different black than the actual case that they're on. And this really pisses me off because first off, these are some of the most expensive fans that you can buy, and I know you're buying them for the noise and the fact that they can have high RPMs and really low noise, but the fact that they come in two separate colors when you buy them, it just adds more modifications and more need to actually paint them yourselves. Because I went with a gloss black on the interior of the case, I'm now forced to paint all the fans um, a gloss black, so I have to take the fan blades off, paint them all a gloss black so it'll match with the radiator as well as the fan blades. This is just says something about the quality that the company put into it or lack thereof, because it's something as simple as just making the blacks the same, and that changes aesthetics, that changes everything. Anyways, enough of that. So here you can clearly see that I've just taken off a little bit of the nubs for the drive cage in order to not hit the fan blades, which is just obvious. And nothing's going to touch. It's just as flush as it was with the fans below it. So the airflow is actually the exact same as the two fans in the front case. Um, Anyways, that's my rant for that, and that was a pretty simple mod just to get the fans, the three fans in the front. So another reason why this has taken so long for another update is because every single piece that I'm putting into this computer build is being modified in some way or another. There hasn't actually been a piece that I've purchased that I've been satisfied with the way it looks or how it goes with the other parts, and I've had to find a way of modifying it in a way that I'm satisfied with it. The Asus motherboard that we have here has two metallic stickers that we're going to be taking off, and the way we're going to do that is heat them up with a hair dryer, and it actually gets pretty hot. You can actually feel the glue melting underneath it or loosening up a little bit. It only takes about 30 seconds to heat up, before you can actually feel it giving way and starting to loosen up the glue a little bit with the X-Acto knife. The reason why I'm doing all these special mods is there's no point in building a computer and putting in something that you're not 100% satisfied with, or something that you're going to want to take out later and fix. If this is truly something that you love and enjoy, then you should be able to look at it and say every piece of that I liked and I wouldn't change any of it. And on this motherboard, I didn't like the two metallic stickers as well as the I/O shield. I'm not too sure why motherboards haven't started to paint the I/O silver pieces to match the board. I'm not too sure why a company would go so far as to painting pretty much well every aspect of the board a certain color scheme, and then just leave the I/O a bright silver that completely clashes with everything that they've done to make it look good. Um, Either way, basically what I'm doing here is just prying off um, the metal sticker, and it looks like I'm putting a lot of force into it, but actually it's just coming up very, very easily, and I couldn't even touch it. It was so hot. So uh, I tried to continue with the X-Acto knife, but ended up just peeling it off with a pliers, and that was pretty much all it. Once I had this off, it was very simple to take the glue off the remaining piece by heating it up and wiping it off. Heating it up actually really helped. Once it solidified, it was pretty much impossible to get off, even using Goo Gone um, or any of those, sticky adhesive removers. You actually have to heat it up, otherwise it's gonna stay on the blocks, and you can't get it off. So it's a pretty solid sticker, but once they came off, it was all right. So we can see it without those stickers, and it's a massive improvement. I know they have to label their property and put ASUS on everything that shines, but this actually really makes the board stick out. It's kind of like debadging your car. You take that Mazda symbol off, and it all of a sudden looks like a Ferrari. So that's similar to what happened here. And then, as I said, the I/O silver portions, um, they're gonna have to get covered by some vinyl or something, or I'm gonna have to paint them black because they they stick out so much. And I don't know why ASUS would go to all this trouble to paint all the components except for the I/O portions. It looks terrible. So again, that's something else I'm gonna have to either paint or put on some vinyl, but it looks good so far. So here we are again, fitting in the pieces just to see exactly where they lie, and you can notice that there's a significant gap between the power supply and the motherboard. So it seems as though there's nothing that's going to be going there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of acrylic and do an engraving on it, as well as put an LED through the acrylic piece that will span the whole distance. So you're not going to be able to see any of the wires going underneath it, which will be to the front power and the reset button, as well as you won't see any of the wires going from the USBs. So that piece of acrylic is going to have to be cut, as well as we're going to start getting ready for the basement cut for the acrylic on the bottom half. So this piece of acrylic is going to be twofold. It's going to, one, hide the cables to the front power buttons and USB cables, as well as it's also going to be a feature of the build. So it's going to be engraved with hopefully a sponsor's logo or a sponsor's name. I'm hoping to get Lutro Customs to help me with the cabling. Their cabling is fantastic, and so I'm in discussion with them to get possibly their name engraved on this slate of plexiglass and have it lit up from behind. As well as it's also going to be a feature of the build, like I said, to hide all the cables from the front and make sure that it's hiding any of the motherboard backing, and make sure that basically you can't see anything what you're not supposed to see. As we move on to the acrylic base, we had to take out a little portion of the case. So you can see there that there's a little rectangle cut out at the bottom of the case. This is for longer power supplies, so they're held in place um, to the bottom because they got a lot more leverage. Uh, while cutting this acrylic base, it really needed to be done by extreme precision. So uh, cutting and then testing the fit and then sanding it to the right size. This was because I wanted the acrylic to go underneath the power supply a little bit as well as underneath the fans on the radiator on the right. This would make it give it a seamless look across the whole base of the uh, case, and then the lights for the LEDs are actually going to shine on top of that acrylic base, so it's reflecting light from the basement all the way up to the top, as well as on that sign that I just mentioned. So making this just right means a lot to the build and a lot to the aesthetics of what I was going for. So once I had it fitted to the exact size, I compared it with the gloss back that we've done, as well as put on the um, back of the reservoir mount. So it really blends in. As you can tell, the matte black before was a lot bigger contrast. Here it sort of blends into the same type of black that you can see. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a haze on the video, but you'll be able to see it a lot better once I get those lights in there and you can see exactly how I'm mounting them, etc. So once we have everything mounted, this is just visual to see the spacings. You can see exactly what I meant by I wanted the acrylic to go underneath both the power supply as well as the fans, so it's seamless. Now, you can't really tell too much, but you can tell that it does go underneath both portions, and this is where I'm going to be mounting the light on there to shine through. So it looks pretty good the way it is, and now we can see it with some lights. So there's a LED strip behind the reservoir. In fact, it's actually behind the acrylic. Once the reservoir is filled with the Mayhem's pastel black, you won't be able to see anything except for the shine from the acrylic. And here is the actual placing of the LED that's going to go underneath the rad there. So it's going to be shining on the components and the ground. Looks a little bit bright right now, but these are dimmable LEDs, so we can adjust it as we need once everything's put in place. Now, this was one of the hardest pieces that I've had to make so far. The side panel with the screws for the PCIe and all the slots. To make it flush on one side, I had to um, put in rivets into the actual acrylic. So you can't see the bolts, but they go through those two notches up there, and there's a couple around on the other side in order to make it flush. And in order to also make those screws able to screw in, I had to do individual notches so that I can actually screw it in without it hitting the plastic. This was extremely difficult and time consuming, but well worth it in the end. In order to get the LEDs mounted on the side there, I had to actually Dremel out a little bit in order to get it flush so that it would shine on both the side panel and then the bottom panel. So in order to fit the LED strip in there, I actually had to Dremel out. You can see a little piece of it there in order to get it in, as it's such a snug fit. Now, we're going to go back to the rant about the coloring of the fans. And the reason why this is so important in this build is because nothing can be mounted until the fans are ready to go in. I can't mount a rad, which means I can't put anything in the case. Until these fans are to my liking, I cannot do anything. So that includes creating them both the same paint color. As you can see, the gloss black really goes with the gloss blades, and that's exactly what I was going for there. But also the screws that I'm going to be using, um, so you can see the difference here. Uh, See how it's just not the same black, and it really does look terrible against the rad, because the rad is a nice matte black, and these are just not the same color, and you can tell right there is the difference between the two. And so I have to go ahead and paint all of the fans in order to make them look acceptable to my liking. So as I was saying before, this is the most important part of the build at this point, because until I have the screws and the fans ready to go, I can't put anything in the case, because you have to mount the rads first, otherwise nothing else is going to fit properly. You can't put them in afterwards. So you can tell again here, I've done a few of the fans and left the middle one. I don't think the camera's doing it justice, but the difference to me is quite significant, especially when we're going to be putting LEDs on these, and you're going to be able to see the difference between the blacks. So there's the matte black in the middle and the gloss black on the other sides. And the blade looks perfect with the gloss black. It actually um, shines the same, and it looks like it was built that way. And the regular version actually looks as though it has been altered. So that's a good thing. The next thing we're going to be doing is getting some button head screws and painting them gold. So those will be the only things that are gold on the fans. So here we go. We've got uh, all of them getting ready for a nice paint job. And those are the smaller size are going to be on the fans, and I think I'm going to try to use the bigger size for some of the acrylic pieces, but we'll see how that goes after the paint. All right, so this is going along the same lines as the fan rant that I had. The reservoir that I purchased was a Phobia Gold reservoir, and luckily enough, Performance PCS was willing to send me a second reservoir. Uh, they noted that these, for some reason, they're lightly painted gold, and then the brass comes right through with time. And you can tell that these have been completely tarnished, and they don't even really look gold anymore at all. PCS, Performance PCS was really nice enough to go through their stock and take a look for any that might be usable. Unfortunately, both ends that they sent were just still unsatisfactory to my liking. There shouldn't be any bronze coming through on the edges, as well as it looks worn and whoops. And sorry about that. And I'm gonna have to repaint it. So I'm looking for a paint that's gonna be able to reflect kind of like this shine here. And I'm gonna be trying a new metallic gold paint just to test that out. So we'll test that out, and just like everything in this build, nothing's come easy. So I bought another product that was unsatisfactory to my liking. So I've had to do a lot of work. Here I ended up polishing it with just a regular polish, and you can see it is a nice bronze. If I was looking for bronze, then this probably would have been good. You can polish it right up, but you can tell the difference between the gold and the actual bronze. Um, it's So now I have to use that metallic paint to see if I can keep that shine on there as the bronze is shining as well. So at least it's a nice bronze after I buffered it all out. So while that paint is drying, the fan paint has dried, as well as the screw heads gold paint has dried. So we can actually start assembling the radiator for the first time with the new fan and screw heads. I really like the paint on the fans. It actually really stands out. It goes perfectly well with the same paint as I did the radiators, and the gold button head screws really accent the black gloss around it. So I'm really happy with the way the fans have finally turned out. You can also notice actually the gloss of the blades goes really well with the gloss of the fans, and it kind of hides the fans completely, except for the button heads. We're taking a look at it now with the acrylic base and the side panel acrylic piece that I put. I was able to handcraft spaces for the lighting, completely hidden. You can see there on the right hand side where one of the wires goes to the back, but you won't be able to see any of the wires. There's also a LED behind the acrylic of the reservoir there, which you also won't be able to see as soon as the reservoir is filled with pure black Mayhem's pastel. I really do like the button head uh, screws, and so I'm going to actually end up changing the screws for the acrylic piece to button head screws as well. So you can see that I used regular screws on the acrylic piece uh, to hold the reservoir, and I'm going to be switching those to bigger button head screws than the ones you see on the fans. So they're going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more prominent than the ones on the fans, but I think they'll really stand out nicely on the acrylic piece as well as the res mounts. You'll see it'll be a consistency within the theme where all the screws should be the same circular button head screws. Now, unfortunately, a simple mod like changing the screws really does take a lot of time. I'm gonna have to first off purchase them because I don't have enough. But second off, I'm gonna have to change all the holes, the hole sizes for those mounts. So that means pretty much, well, everything has to come out, and I have to cut them to size out back as well as remount them. So that's a long time, a lot of work to do for such a small change. So here's a quick look with some of the lighting placements that I have. The final lighting on the left panel there, you can see you won't be able to see that lighting behind the res because it's going to be filled with black, and the top of the um, XSPC rad, temporarily I'm just placing it there to see how it looks, but so far everything's coming together. It doesn't look as though a lot has changed since the last time, but in fact a lot of the details are being taken care of, and when we come back we're going to take a look at hopefully finishing the delidding process as well as uh, possibly getting some of the acrylic tube in, as well as the custom wiring and the final touches with the two 780s, 780 Ti's and water blocks. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. There's going to be a contest when I hit 100 subscribers, so stay tuned, subscribe, and leave your comments.